What's going on, everyone? Matt here from PT Profit, Leverage, and Lifestyle Show. Hope everyone is having an amazing day so far. We're doing a solo episode today, team. So, last probably 3 or 4 episodes, I've had some awesome guests on. So, if you haven't listened to those ones yet, like Jake's going off with his online PT one. That episode's going really, really well, and the AI episode a couple of weeks back is going off as well. So I'm glad people are enjoying the content. It's awesome to connect with these people. And actually, shout out to Jake. I'm actually doing. He's actually mentoring me at the moment. Him and his wife are mentoring me. So it's a good thing about doing these things because you get to meet people and learn from their experiences. And also Jackson with the AI software. I've actually teamed up with him. We're going to be partners. So I'm going to get all my clients sorted with their AI software. So super pumped. So I'm freshly shaven or trimmed after doing the mowing this morning, and I'm ready to rock and roll. All right. Topic for today is why do you need terms and conditions, and what should you include in your terms and conditions? So very common for personal trainers to not have any terms and conditions. And second thing is actually to have terms and conditions and not actually follow them. That's even worse. Well, I suppose it's worse by not having any at all. But if you have terms and conditions, make sure you actually enforce them, because then there's no point even having them. And you're just wasting time and space. So let's get into it. Let's get into firstly why you need to have terms and conditions. And I'm going to go through what you should include with your terms and conditions, and also obviously how to stick to the terms and conditions when people don't abide by them. Okay. So firstly, why? Why is because you got to remember you're not running you're not in a job. So you need to set boundaries and expectations with your clients for what is actually expected in the business. Meaning, how long they're going to be training with you for, a minimum term. What happens if they need to pause payments? What happens if they miss sessions? What happens if they don't show up? And so you're not going to get you're not going to get to be a successful PT without having terms and conditions. You see all these big companies, they've got all their policies and procedures all written out, clear as day. So when you do have your terms and conditions, then I suggest having a minimum term that people will train with you for. Reason being is because if people aren't committed to the journey, because you don't want short-term results, right? And I'm sure most personal trainers, like I've been a PT now for almost 5 years. The best type of clients are the ones that stick with you for a long period of time, and they get the best results because consistency over time wins. Large progress over a small amount of time is not sustainable. Or it can be sustainable, but the majority of the people, it is not sustainable. So I do suggest having some type of minimum term, and it really does depend on the club that you're in, and also your own, not your own opinion, but you can obviously extend this as you get a bit more experience. So for the people that are starting out, when I first started, I didn't have any long-term contracts or lock-ins. I did have a minimum of 4 weeks and a 4-week notice period. So I never used to train anyone as like a one-off. I did a minimum of 4 weeks, but I evolved this over time. So if you're just starting out, you just start with like a 4-week minimum and a 4-week notice period. So they could do a 4-week trial, for example, and then if they want to continue after 4 weeks, then sweet. If not, then they can cancel. But otherwise, it's just a rolling monthly type of agreement, which is fine to start with. Now, long term, I suggest doing a minimum of 12 weeks. These days, most personal trainers will have like a training block of at least 12 weeks. You might have like a muscle building phase and then a fat loss phase or whatever. whatever it is. You can obviously train people how you want to train people, but a lot of the time, majority of the time, you need to go through different phases to actually get the results that they want. Otherwise, people they wouldn't want to work with a personal trainer. So one thing is it gives you stability for income. It gives you confidence in the business as well. It gives you obviously cash flow. Predicted cash flow is less stress. Predicted forecasted cash flow helps reduce stress. There's enough stresses in business already for you to for you to not know if people are, or for you to not know if you're going to get paid a certain amount the following week is stressful. So have terms and conditions so you can so you can stress less, but you can forecast your income. So you're like, cool. So for the next 12 weeks or for the next 4 weeks, I've got this amount of guaranteed income, at least. And obviously, ideally, we want to keep them past the 12-week minimum or past the 4 weeks, but at least you've got that guaranteed income for that time. And then you can forecast what you do with the business from there. So, you know, and I spoke to Jake about this just in our general conversation the other day. They're an online fitness business, only working with women. 98, I don't know how, if this is the right number, but I think it's 98% of their clients that come on board sign up for 12 months of online PT. 98%. And they do, I think last month they did 146K in sales last month. Isn't that crazy? Absolutely crazy. So they either have a 6 months or a 12-month option, as far as I know. And I could be wrong. So if you're listening to this, Jake or Jade, I don't know exactly, but it's up there in terms of the duration and what people are signing up to. So you just got to change the mindset around this. Like if you really want committed people, they need to commit properly. And it's a separate conversation in terms of getting people to commit and getting them in the emotional state of mind to make that purchasing decision. That's a separate episode on sales, but you need to make sure you're setting the boundary and the expectation that they need to commit to train with you for a certain amount of time to see any results. And I say this to people all the time. Look, the reason why we have a minimum of 12 weeks is so we can actually get data on your results. You're not going to be able to see massive changes in a 4-week period or in a 6-week period or whatever. You need a good amount of time to actually track the progress and adjust things that are happening. You might not get the results that you want after 4 weeks. But then if we just make a slight shift in the nutrition, for example, the training style, and then re-evaluate after another 4 weeks, how are you going to know that if you're only going to give it a try for a couple of sessions? I see this all the time with people. Oh no, I'll just get a couple of PT sessions, then I'll be sweet. Nope. Not the type of clients that you want. So it gives them the commitment, gives them the financial commitment to actually make the changes, because if they're committed to spending $100 a week for 12 weeks, that's $1,200. It's not massive, but it's a lot of money as well. Like if you imagine the type of clientele you'd have if they committed to 12 months at $100 a week, $5,000 a year. You think that person's going to be committed? 100% they are. So that's all I'll say on the commitment. The other stuff you want to put in your terms and conditions. So I'm just going to go through mine is. So I've got like a minimum 12 weeks and then a 30-day notice period to cancel. So the reason why you want to have a notice period is because people cancel on emotion as well. So they don't want to cancel, but they feel like they have to because of financial reasons or whatnot. But you want to have a notice period so you have an opportunity when they're not emotional to either try and talk them out of it or drop sell them to a different option, which might be more affordable to them, or something that's a bit more, or I suppose a different option for them if that's what they need. It gives you the opportunity. Session cancellation policy, 12 hours notice. So there's nothing more annoying when you've got sessions at like 5 a.m. and someone messages you at 4:30 saying, hey, I slept in. I'm not going to be able to make this session. Can we reschedule? No. No, you cannot reschedule. unfortunately, you've got to give 12 hours notice. So unfortunately, you just lose this session and I'll see you at the next session. So basically, and it's obviously in your discretion. So in the terms and conditions, there's a 12-hour notice period. Usually what I would do, if the first time I would be lenient, but if it's after that, say, hey, look, the first time I'll let you reschedule, but next time I'm not going to be able to, because you lose on that time to get paid for that time. You're not going to have time to fill that spot, which is the whole reason why you need to have the notice period. Okay. If people don't show up, what happens then? If they don't show up for the session, it's just a straight no refund. And the other thing about this is when you're setting people up on direct debits, what you really need to be doing is getting people to pay a week in advance. Does that make sense? So if they sign up, they pay on the spot, ideally, pay on the spot, then their first session is the following week. So they're always paying a week in advance. That way, if they don't show up or if they don't tell you with enough notice, they've already paid for the session. So you just no refund. That's what happens then. That's because if you don't have that and they're paying after the session's meant to be completed, they can just block the payments or chuck up a stink saying, hey, no, I'm not paying. I slept in or whatever. I'm sick. Sorry. Got a business to run. Got a family to feed. Sorry, people. Now the other just general stuff, and if you want, I can if you guys want a copy of my terms and conditions, just send me a message or send me a DM and I can send you my terms and conditions template. And just some standard stuff like this, like if you cancel the contract before the 12 weeks, you'll need to pay out the 12-week balance. The appropriate paperwork will need to be signed before any cancellations are done. So this is what I'm talking about, the process. Again, cancellations can be in a separate podcast, and I think I have actually done a separate podcast on terms and conditions. So if you haven't watched that, go back to it's towards the start, that cancellation policy and how to actually how to enforce the cancellation policy. Now the next thing, payment defaults or arrears. So depending on the direct debit company that you're with, they may charge an overdue fee, which you will then pass on to the client. So you should not be paying this fee if their payments are declining. Some clients will chuck up a stink for the dishonor fee. It's completely normal to charge a dishonor fee. Everyone else does it. All the big companies do it. So why should you have to suffer because they can't get themselves organized? I say this comparison all the time to my clients. You should be making decisions as if you're Coles or Woolworths in terms of policies and procedures. I had someone the other day. One of the clients of mine said, "Oh, I had a client cancellation, and they canceled within an hour of the session." And he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I should just give her a refund or just give her a half refund." And I was like, well, why would you do that? What did your terms and conditions say? Oh, they got to give a 12-hour notice period. Okay. So is there a reason why you're going against the boundary that you set? Because that you're allowing people to walk all over you. And when you have that shift in mindset saying, although I'm a small business now, I'm going to operate as if I'm an established business and people will respect you for it. I've got clients that have trained with me for years now, and some of them have lost sessions, but it's their fault. It's not your fault that people aren't showing up for sessions or that they cancel last minute. So don't let people take advantage of you. Now, some of the other things in here as well, non-attendance of sessions. So if people do need to reschedule, I do say they absolutely can need to reschedule, but they need to give me the notice period. And then the makeup sessions need to be done within 2 weeks. Otherwise, they just bank up over time, and it's too much to handle. So I give people 2 weeks to get makeup sessions done. Otherwise, it's just the no refund. If they can't prioritize it, then we can't just keep holding on to these makeup sessions. Previously, when I first started doing PT, I had some clients had like 7 or 8 makeup sessions. It was ridiculous. You need to set the boundary. So you got to make sure you go through this with the client in their first session. So hey, just a reminder, I'm going to send you through the terms and conditions. This is the notice period you need to give if you can't make the session. This is what happens if you need to cancel. This is what happens if the payment declines. This is what happens if this happens. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? And then, of course, just get them to sign it. So that's essentially what I would include in your terms and conditions. And just make sure you're actually sticking to it. So the biggest thing, I think, from today is make sure you get people to actually commit to a certain level of sessions, whether it's 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, just fine. But as long as you have a minimum term that people commit to, because then you have predictable cash flow, which equals less stress. So I hope that makes sense. If you do want a copy of the terms and conditions, let me know. Send me a message, send me a DM on the normal channels, Facebook, Instagram, and I'll send it to you. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day.